What's up, y'all, and welcome to the first, inaugural edition of this podcast that we don't have a name for yet. Presented to you by the For All Nerds Massive. This is the MCU, everything MCU related review podcast. Yes. From the perspective of
people of color. And we are here to talk about WandaVision. As you know, we've been pretty excited about this title for like the longest, this miniseries. It came out, a day after my birthday. My birthday was January 14th, and it came out on the 15th. So that was a nice, I like to make it it was a birthday present for me from Marvel. Thank you. Thank you, Mouse. Appreciate it. But yeah, we're here. As you know, we love to review our favorite shows. And if you are following us like you absolutely should, that is For All Nerds on pretty much every podcast platform you could think of. But if you're following us, you would know that we've been covering a lot of different shows. And this will be very similar, where we're going to go deep dive into the episodes. We're going to talk about Easter eggs, the music, plot points, and, just discuss little things about why the show's so interesting. And just to put it out there right now, I absolutely love WandaVision so far. I'm hooked, hook, line, and sinker, if you will. Like, I'm with it. What about you?
I am, but we still haven't even introduced ourselves.
We have to do that.
Yeah, we need to do that first. You did say that this is a For All Nerds production. Like you said, we're For All Nerds on all social media. You already know us. You might know us from doing Castle Black, the Safe Negro Pod, or the For All Nerds main show. But I am your host, DJ Ben Amin, a.k.a. I don't have any WandaVision related AKAs yet. So, we're going to get there.
And I'm Tatiana King, a.k.a. Agatha. Darkness is spreading. Thank you for that one, Ben.
You're very welcome, you're very welcome. I'll go with Bid Dread right now. Bid Dread.
Oh, AKA, Bid Dread. Okay.
A.k.a. Bid Dread here. And yes, we are reviewing WandaVision. I'm not completely blown away just yet. I'll say that. I'm going B+.
I don't think anyone's looking to be blown away quite yet. It's a brand new series on Disney Plus, and this is like the first, next to The Mandalorian, I guess, this is the first big time series that people are really excited about. So I wouldn't say you need to be blown away, but do you like it?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
And this is also Marvel's first thing since pretty much Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah. Especially during the pandemic, right?
Yeah, so it's been a long time, and we got 2 episodes, so we have 2 episodes to review. Do either of these episodes even have titles, or was it just episode 1 and 2?
No, they were literally called episode 1 and 2. And that's probably because the whole show is basically revolving around itself as its own in-world TV show. If you will. And so for the episodes should just be episode titles, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
no trigger warnings that we know of.
Yeah, this is unlike, for those who listen to Safe Negro Pod, this show does not have gratuitous violence, etc. so far.
Yeah.
Racially tinged things. So, we don't really need any trigger warnings, I don't think. I don't know. Y'all let us know if we missed something that, set y'all off. But as far as I know, no trigger warnings for this episode.
Right. And both of these episodes was directed by Max Shackman, who he actually also directed episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Fargo, and Game of Thrones. Oh. So he has some things under his belt.
Okay. And it was written by Jack Schaefer, who is the showrunner. And I'm not sure what else they done, but they are also, showrunning this show and doing a big thing. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And to give you one big thing that Jack has done, they wrote the upcoming MCU film Black Widow.
Oh, so that actually, raises the anticipation for Black Widow a little bit.
Not for me.
Wow.
Moving on. That being said, at least you could trust the writing, right? Because that's one of the main things I really liked about WandaVision. The writing is pretty solid. As most of you should know anyway, WandaVision takes place after the events of Avengers Endgame. And the general consensus on the interwebs is, at least this is my consensus, that because of the trauma that Wanda had went through with, well, one, having Vision die twice on her, amongst other things. Twice, cold-blooded twice. But she basically retreats into herself. And this is also similar to a storyline in the books, but she basically retreated to herself with her reality-bending powers and kind of creates her own bubble universe, her own bubble world, which, it's interesting if you look at it from a perspective of psychology. When, people say, people start making up these stories in their head, like when they go through massive trauma, they may come up with another personality and other things that happen. In this case, since she's a mutant, and maybe one day we'll hear that word from the MCU's mouth, but since she's a mutant, she has this power amongst many to actually manipulate reality itself. And what we think she's in right now, her and Vision is this universe, maybe in her mind, maybe I don't know if it's an actual physical place, but it's just this own entity, if you will.
All right, we're gonna get into that. That's your theory. I'm not so 100% on that, but let's break down this the basic plot of these episodes, because as people who know, listen to Safe Negro Pod, once again, we are not going to sit here and go beat by beat of the script, because you've already seen the episode. If you haven't, go watch it, because we're gonna get heavy into spoilers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we're not going scene by scene. So, if you're looking for somebody to recap it, you can read that. Yeah. But we're going to talk about the main themes and all of the interesting items that we noticed throughout each episode.
So, the basic plot of episode 1 is we meet Wanda and Vision in Westview, which is a fictional town in New Jersey. While they know who they are, they're not really sure how they got there. And there's no time to figure things out, because Vision got to bring home the bacon, and Wanda got to figure out why today, August 23rd, is so special.
Yes. And then episode 2, we come up to Wanda and Vision again. They're actually practicing for a town talent show, and it's really important because it's for the children. We see a lot more strange things happening, including toy helicopters falling from the sky. They meet up with people in their town, particularly one named Dottie, who seems to be the town boss. And she seems to think something is up with Wanda and Vision, despite Wanda's protests. Now, one thing I want to say about both of these episodes is the way that they're set up. So episode 1 takes place what would be considered maybe a 50s setting. What's the show that it's referencing?
Dick Van Dyke.
Okay.
The opening of the show is pretty much a note-for-note recreation of the Dick Van Dyke opening, with Wanda, even when Vision and Wanda are walking into the house and Vision drops her, and then he picks her back up and walks inside. In the Dick Van Dyke opening, Dick trips over the couch, but in this, Wanda makes Vision in her phase and they walk through the couch.
Okay. So no tripping here. Excellent.
Well, no, the tripping is coming when he drops her ass on the porch.
That too.
He was definitely tripping there. But that also leads into the whole show, as that there, like you said, there definitely seems to be something of Wanda having more control over this situation than Vision, and knowing more about what is going on than Vision does.
She knows enough, but it's like she knows. They're both aware to certain degrees, right?
Yeah.
They both know that, again, like as we mentioned at the top, they don't know how they got there or what's going on. They don't know much about their relationship. During the episode, they're questioned a few times, like, well, how did y'all meet? When did y'all get, they say they're married. They're like, well, when did y'all get married? What's your y'all song, y'all wedding song, whatever the song may be, y'all special song, what's this, what's that? And they don't know shit. They just know that they're together. Yep. And at most times it doesn't even feel like they realize that they're in some strange situation. They just live in this town. They don't seem to know any better. But there are lots of moments where Wanda becomes lucid. Like she does, both her and actually at least one time Vision does it, where they look dead at the camera. They look, and it's kind of fourth wall breaking, but it's also like the character is, you see her looking at the camera, but also looking off into space a bit, as if she's in a trance. Now, I don't know if you personally experience this, but I've experienced this all the time, where you might be sitting around, like, even when you're driving, you ever been driving for a long time and you disassociate and like you're not falling asleep. It's just like you're there, but you're it's like your body is there, but your mind may be elsewhere. And then you realize it and you snap out of it and you realize, oh, I'm on the road, I'm driving. This has happened before, and this has happened to a lot of people. So to me, it gave that same type of energy.
It's also something that we got to point out, like I was saying, is that Wanda is more the mystical character, Vision is obviously the more analytical as a robot. So even in the very first episode, when he goes off to his job, he's sitting at work and he's trying to figure out what they actually do at the job. And that's also a callback to like shows like the Dick Van Dyke Show and shows of that nature, when back then the husband would go off to work, the mom would stay at home, have this perfect dress on, pearls, everything, manage the household, but you would never see what the husband does at work. Like, you never see their job or what they're actually doing. You know, even like on shows like the Jetsons, like Spacely Sprocket and George Jetson. Jetson's just sitting there pushing a button all day. You never see what they're actually making. You know,
what do they make? Like
Spacely Sprockets and shit.
Sprockets? Whatever a sprocket is.
Whatever a sprocket is. You know, and it's like, so he's trying to figure it out right away, while Wanda is always trying to keep him on the path of, no, let's just accept this life. Let's stay here. Let's be in this, you know. While Vision is constantly like, yo, this is not right. You know, I'm a robot. I know this ain't right. Let me try and figure my way out of this. Android, not exactly robot, I know. But
yeah. But not only is he trying to figure out, like, wait, what are we doing here? What's happening? Like, he's trying to figure out the logic of it. I wonder if first of all, we know this happens after Endgame, but is he dead? Or is this a manifestation of him? Now, one thing about Wanda, I mentioned,
is he dead?
She has a lot of powers, and one of them also is necromancy to a degree. She can actually reanimate bodies. She can talk.
I've seen people say this lately, but
she can. I will reference that later on in this episode. But she can also talk to the dead. Now, I don't know if and then again, this is like the old version of her. I don't know if they're using that. Like, to me, it sounds like a Superman thing. Like, all of a sudden he has all these powers. Yeah. I don't know if they're using that to kind of connect to this, or if this is just simply a figment of her imagination. Maybe Vision himself is just part of this whole charade she's built up in her head. But is he dead? What's going on?
I've seen a lot of references to that, you know, this week where people are saying that Wanda speaks to the dead. I've read a lot of Wanda comics. I mean, she's very ill-defined, though, even in the comics and in the movies even more so. And in the movies and in the MCU, people have said that she has basically all the powers to a degree of all the different Infinity Stones, which means she can do pretty much anything, you know, kind of like Thanos himself when he had all the stones, or anyone who has the gauntlet. So we'll just go with it for now. Wanda can do whatever, and there's a lot going on in this. And there's, like we said, there's a lot of references to the comics, to, you know, the MCU, to everything that's come before. So is Vision dead? I'd say right now, I don't know. But okay, like, your theory is that Wanda has created this world that they're in right now, right?
Because if you look at things like House of M, she basically, with the whole No More Mutant stuff, like, she basically was able to do the same thing after a traumatic event. She wasn't having that shit, and she basically manipulated the reality of the world to her liking, for better or worse. And to me, I feel like that is the same thing going on here. As we know, the MCU doesn't follow canon precisely to the letter, and it absolutely does not need to. So I think that they've taken inspiration from this and drawing that into WandaVision. Yep.
Now, my question about whether or not she created all on her own leads to certain things that we see in these first two episodes, right? Like, one of the major characters that I guess we should just get into right now is Miss Agnes, who...
the nosy neighbor that she's credited as.
Nosy neighbor, as she is credited as. And that, you know, is like another classic sitcom trope where it's like there's always this nosy neighbor trying to find out what's going on, especially for people who remember shows like Alf, when they're trying to hide the alien. You know, there's always the nosy neighbor. What was the joint with the little girl, Small Wonder, with the little robot daughter? You never seen Small Wonder? You don't know about Small Wonder?
Okay. You're teaching me lots of stuff. Go ahead.
Okay, well, Small Wonder was this joint with I never watched Small Wonder either. I think it was like before or after my time. I don't know, whatever it was. But this family gets a robot daughter. And, so of course they got a nosy neighbor trying to find out about their robot daughter. And then, of course, the classic Bewitched, where everybody's trying to find out if Samantha actually a witch or not.
I know about Bewitched because that's been referenced many times throughout the decades. People have made, like whether it's Halloween costumes or other TV shows or music videos, people have referenced that forever. Yeah. So.
Small Wonder not as popping, so I understand.
Okay.
Small Wonder was no Bewitched. Let's keep it real here. Okay. But Small Wonder had his moments. You know about Alf, though, right?
Yeah, I know the alien with the nose, right?
Yeah. Okay. That was just disturbing. So everyone knows Alf.
I just know what he looks like. I
never F with that show, yo. It was so. I thought he was just so disturbing as a kid. Like I just thought Alf was disturbing. I did not deal with it. But so anyway, Agnes is the nosy neighbor. But for comic book readers and for everyone who's been, even as soon as the first previews of this show came up, everybody did the Leonardo and was like, "Yo, that's yo, Agatha Harkness, who is a major comic book character whose history goes back with the Scarlet Witch, is intertwined with Wanda from Jump, teaches her magic, shows up again and again in her life. Even after she gets killed, she comes back like the Obi-Wan ghost and shows up and is always messing with Wanda, and not always for Wanda's benefit. And
she just fuck around her because she petty?
Yeah, petty patty sometimes.
Damn.
Because the whole thing with Wanda having children, right, which we see we see her get pregnant at the end of episode 2, is that Wanda and Vision have these kids together. Obviously, Wanda's a mutant, Vision's an android.
And biologically, they cannot. However, she's a witch and can eventually do anything.
Things happen. And so Agatha may help make that happen with the help of, later on, this was written as comics continue to, make things worse, with the help of Mephisto, who is one of the devils and one of the major devils of the Marvel universe.
Oh, he ain't the devil?
No, Marvel never likes to give you the devil, you know what I mean? Because that gets pretty,
he's
into religion.
Lights.
Yeah, devil light, demonish, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever.
Devilish, yeah. But Mephisto is like that dude who, damn, if he ain't the devil, he's the closest one to it. If it ain't Biggie, he the closest one.
He's the approximation of the devil.
Pretty much. Okay. And Mephisto's always doing all kind of hella trifling stuff in the comics with regards to superheroes and pretty much everybody.
He was the devil. The devil's trifling.
Yes, he was a main part of the Infinity Gauntlet comic book. He never made it into the movie, but it seems that he might be making his first appearance here because Agnes, nosy neighbor, made several references to the devil, as like when they're talking about at the little meeting, they're talking about the devil's in the details, and she says that's not the only place he is. She also talks about her husband, who is never seen, which is also
Holmes.
Yeah, ever. That's also a classic trope of sitcom comedy. The neighbor or the person who has his husband always dissing him, but you never see them. Yeah, that's constant. Yeah. But Agnes also gives her this rabbit in the second episode, which she calls Senior Scratchy. Most people, Scratch is a name for, Old Nick for Satan. Scratch, it's just one of them names. It goes back. So there's a lot of things.
I also thought since you're talking about Scratch, that referred to Nicholas Scratch, who is her son.
Yes, which is also, Nicholas, Saint, Old Nick. It's Scratch. This is Marvel. They just gave him names of the devil, basically.
Okay.
So
they're all one and the same.
Yeah. Okay. So you get names of the devil.
Right.
So that's how that worked out.
Right.
But yes.
Also interesting about Agnes is, her role in this. Like we mentioned, how both Wanda and Vision are on varying levels of accepting where they are. But Agnes, she keeps encouraging Wanda to maintain that illusion. So perhaps, as you said, Ben, is Wanda doing this on her own? And even at the end of the episode, we hear a voice saying, "Wanda, who's doing this to you?" Perhaps Agatha/Agnes is controlling or part of this situation to maintain this illusion. I mean, she's doing all sorts of things to keep Wanda in this unreality.
And the visual clue is her brooch that she is wearing in every scene. That is the same brooch that Agatha Harkness is wearing in the comic books. So there's a lot of little things where okay, this is definitely Agatha Harkness. And like you said, she is keeping her. Even when Wanda sees the helicopter, the in color red helicopter,
The toy helicopter.
Toy helicopter, but was it a toy 5 minutes ago is the other question. Agnes is like, come along now, and keeps her moving away from that. You know, she is always like, and then right after that, it's like, yo, what's up with them kids though? You know, and it's constantly, what's up with them kids? What's up with them kids? And then kids pop out at the end.
Because like, what's the one of the best ways to keep someone deep in their dream, right? Keep giving them things that they want. So of course she wants to be with Vision. She wants to have a family with Vision. She wants to live this perfect life with Vision. And the more and this is again, which is why I feel like my thought about what this place is. This is just more of Agnes feeding into that, or Agatha rather feeding into that, and keeping Wanda in place or in stasis. Since you mentioned the helicopter, we should mention the next character.
You know it. So,
as you said it, you just alluded to it. You said, was that toy helicopter always a toy? As we know, this is again, I'm going to go with my theory that this is some strange bubble universe, okay? Which means things aren't what they seem, that someone is also partly manipulating Wanda, and that, you know, things are being hidden from her purposefully. Why would there be a random toy helicopter that would be in complete color when the rest of the scene is in black and white in her bushes? Ben, I mean, your take is that this was probably a real helicopter just a few minutes ago doing what?
Dropping off our next character. We see on the helicopter, if you look closely, the sword symbol, which reoccurs several times, and we'll get into that right now and explain what the sword is all about and all that.
Okay.
But it's right on the helicopter. And I'm not sure when, but there's actually another shot of a helicopter being, you know, I think it's from one of the trailers or whatever, getting caught up in this storm.
Yes.
So I think they're going to show that later on. But basically, yes, I believe that helicopter is a sword helicopter, which was dropping off or attempting to enter into this realm with Monica Rambeau herself.
And she's going by the name of Geraldine. Now, as I had some days to sleep on it and think back, even though it feels like, she tries to make it seem like, Monica tries to make it seem like she's also like, I don't know how I got here. I don't know what's going on. I think she's completely in on it. Like, I think she is aware of what's happening, and she has been dropped, if you will. She has been dropped down by AIM to try to help get Wanda out of this.
By sword.
By sword. Thank you.
By sword AIM?
What? Listen,
is it a Hydra shield situation going on here?
We'll get into it in a minute, but let me not. I don't want to. That was just a slip.
I just thought of that when you said it, and I just realized that's probably what's going on here. But we'll get into that
potentially.
in a second.
I don't want to because this is another thing. There's so many characters and acronyms and things that people have no idea about. That we want to try to keep it together and try to give you all some of this information.
Word up. So keeping it on Geraldine, Tiana Paris, right?
Tiana Paris, yeah.
Oof. All right. Killing it. Beautiful smile. I mean, and what a smile. Jesus Christ. Every time she smiles, it's just like the world lights up. But she is rocking this piece of jewelry, which it looks like a spiral. It's gold, even though, you know, you can see the black and white. It's definitely gold. And it looks like the spiral, like Doctor Strange's portal, but also could represent a spiral galaxy, because in the comic books, Monica Rambeau is the one and only, well, not the one and only, because there's multiple of them. She becomes a version of Captain Marvel. She also goes by the name Photon, by Auntie Monica, and by a bunch of other names. She is a badass just one of my favorite characters. Like, I grew up, like this, like the era that some of the stuff they're showing here is like the first comics I read. Like, Captain Monica Rambeau was part of the Avengers. She was my Captain Marvel as a kid. The Vision and Scarlet Witch had this miniseries written by Steve Englehart where they moved to the suburbs and they first have these children. That was like, you know, one of the first comics. I think that was one of the first miniseries I read. And it's like a really goofy, there are fights and stuff, but it's mainly about them trying to be hidden in the suburbs, you know, more so than anything else. But I loved it. So seeing all this stuff on screen, like finally seeing Monica Rambeau herself was just a moment for me, y'all. Like, that is just like,
It's pretty awesome. And also, for those who've been following the movie, she's actually the daughter of Maria Rambeau. If you watch the Captain Marvel movie, Maria was a little girl. So this is, Monica was a little girl rather. Yep. So Monica is all grown up now.
And this is her second appearance for those following. So she, like you said, she was in the Captain Marvel movie, and here she is again.
Yeah.
And we've seen, like we said in the trailers, we've seen the helicopter flying. We've also seen Monica Geraldine getting thrown out of this bubble universe at some point. So,
which is why I feel like she's probably been sent as an agent to try to break Wanda out of this space or whatever the fuck is going on, and then maybe she gets expelled at some point. Whether it's Agatha, maybe it's Wanda rejecting her, rejecting her from changing her reality. Who the hell knows? But I think that's where we're going.
So, since we did mention Monica and Captain Marvel and the helicopter with the sword symbol, which we see a few times, let's take a second and explain what sword is first, right? All right, the first time you see the symbol that I know of, at least, I might have missed one, is at the end of the first episode, right? The first episode ends, it has the traditional 50s ending of the freeze frame and them looking at the camera, and then the credits start rolling. A quick little Easter egg in there is that the person who directed that episode within the episode is Abe Brown. Abe Brown is the young black boy who was on the debate team in Spider-Man Homecoming and Far From Home. He's one of Peter Parker's homies. So now remember, this takes place after Endgame, 5 years later. Abe didn't get snapped. Abe graduated from high school, kept it moving. Is now a director directing WandaVision somehow. Who knows? That might be just one of these. I'm sure we'll get into it. Marvel doesn't just throw things in there for no reason.
Yeah.
But anyway, as the camera pulls back, you see that someone else is watching this show.
Yeah.
And we see the sword symbol right there, and we see someone taking notes of it. So that's the first time. Second time's on the helicopter, and then Monica shows up. Of course, you hear the person at the end and through the radio calling for Wanda, asking, help me. I mean, who's doing this to you? That voice is Randall Park, who we've seen before in the Ant-Man films. He plays the character Jimmy Woo. At the time, Jimmy Woo, I just love saying that name. Jimmy Woo was working for S.H.I.E.L.D. He was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent.
Yeah, right? and if you all remember, S.H.I.E.L.D. has been in pretty much all of the Marvel films, led by Nick Fury. And if you didn't know, at least in MCU films, it stands for Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division.
Yes, and it's changed what it stands for several times in the MCU. So in the Marvel comics. So
in the comics, it's changed. But
I'm glad you got the MCU version because it's changed so many times. But anyway, in the comics, Marvel at one point, they, of course, you got S.H.I.E.L.D., so they have SWORD, which is another organization. SWORD in the comic book stands for Sentient World Observation and Response Department, and SWORD operated out of this giant spaceship, the Peak, which was
space station,
orbiting
the Earth.
Yeah, orbiting the Earth, which was an orbit around the Earth. They were led by this woman, Agent Brand. You first hear about SWORD in Astonishing X-Men by Joss Whedon. Agent Brand instantly became one of my favorite characters. I can't wait to see her on screen. I hope she shows up here. But SWORD would handle all the space stuff while S.H.I.E.L.D. defended the Earth, right? SWORD and the S.H.I.E.L.D. Boom. So in the MCU, SWORD stands for Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division. So it's a subtle difference where they're not talking about defending the world, but
it's a floating weapon.
Yeah, it seems that they're after people who are weapons.
Yeah.
AKA Wanda and Viz. So I'm sure they might, okay, now that's all right. Now, what we were talking about before and all these acronyms, right? We have SWORD and we have S.H.I.E.L.D. We also have Hydra, which from the MCU was the villainous organization that Baron von Strucker was a part of. Baron von Strucker was in Age of Ultron. He was the dude with the monocle, and he's experimenting on Wanda and Wanda and her brother Pietro Quicksilver, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's Hydra. Hydra also infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D., as we saw with the whole Hail Hydra and all that type of stuff. Baron von Strucker in the comics leaves Hydra and forms another organization called AIM, Advanced Idea Mechanics. And they're all about, super smart ideas. They're like the evil Tony Stark.
I was about to say, they're the evil Stark Industries.
Yeah,
if you don't believe Stark Industries is already inherently evil.
There you go.
That's another story.
Another story. And there's also Stain Industries, which was the evil Stark Industries, if Stark wasn't evil enough. So they're like the evil Stark Industries, right? But in one of my favorite comics, Sunspot of the New Mutants, because he's rich, buys AIM. And he's like, they're not really evil. They just had bad management. That's how he dealt with it.
Okay, capitalism.
Classic. You gotta love it. You know what I mean? So AIM in the comics was founded by Baron von Strucker, and they go on and they're like an offshoot of Hydra, and they wear these beekeeper outfits. They're not exactly beekeepers, but forever that's what people thought they looked like. They're like yellow suits with these helmets that look like beekeeper outfits. So in the movies, we have Hydra infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D. So in the MCU, are we going to have something where AIM has infiltrated S.W.O.R.D.? Because we see at the end of the second episode, we see this beekeeper, who's another character who I guess we're going to talk about now, who comes up out of this manhole, and everyone's like, okay, that's AIM, even though he has real bees or flies floating around him. Which
it's very strange.
Yeah, that ain't about that AIM life. But on the back of his suit, there's the sword symbol yet again.
Right. So
WTF.
Right. And listen, we understand that first of all, there's a lot of information.
Mad acronyms, right?
And also mad acronyms. So, and it will be repeating it. But also it's interesting because it's just like there's so much new shit that people have no idea that it's, especially if you've never read these comics, you have no idea what's going on. And I don't think it's deterred too many people. Everyone I've seen has said like their thoughts have been, what the fuck is going on? But at the same time, it's interesting.
So let me just stop you there because it's so funny to me because I remember when I saw reviews of the show and people were like, oh, it's super weird. And I watched it. I was like, where was the weird? But it's because I've read so many of these comics that I'm like, oh shit, are they referencing that? Are they referencing that? Are they referencing that? But I get it. So I'm glad that the show isn't too weird where it's turning people off because I want people to be able to get it. And I hope that our show helps them do it. But yeah, carry on. There you go.
So you mentioned the character of the beekeeper. That's the next one. As you said, it could be an AIM member that's infiltrated S.W.O.R.D. It could just be a S.W.O.R.D. person that's just happened to have a beekeeper costume on. It could just be a random beekeeper. It could also be possibly Swarm, which is the name of an actual supervillain that appears. It's an enemy of Spider-Man, and the character's entire body is made out of bees.
Yes. He was so ill.
So the Spider-Man link / MCU link is there, whatever.
He fought mad people, and he definitely fought the West Coast Avengers a lot, who Vision and Scarlet Witch were members of at a time.
Right. Even though, and I see this note from you, it said could be Mephisto coming up from hell. I mean, when they said Beelzebub / the devil comes up from hell, it's all these flies. Those aren't flies.
Lord of the Flies.
But Lord, whatever. Who the hell knows? Interestingly, also, and this is actually more directly related to the MCU films. The character that was named at the end of Thor? I don't know if it was Thor Ragnarok or the other Thor, but at the end of that,
Thor Ragnarok. Thor
Ragnarok at the after credit scenes or one of the.
No,
scenes.
it's not. No, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. Actually, it's not even.
Okay.
Yeah, one of them damn movies.
I usually put so when it comes
it's Guardians of the Galaxy. It's Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
All right, so let me explain. When it comes to MCU stuff, anything that's dealing in space, I usually attribute that to either Guardians or Thor because they all met up. Let's just say that. At the end of, you say it's Guardians? Okay.
Guardians Galaxy 2, yes.
At the end of that, there's a scene where it's Adam Warlock, okay? It was a character like that golden woman was like talking to, and she was like, I forgot what she said to him precisely, but she called him Adam. And everyone got all up in arms because it was like, yo, that's Adam Warlock, which is a huge character in the Marvel Comics. Adam Warlock was created by a group of researchers who called themselves the Beehive. Yep. And their goal as researchers was to create the perfect human being, like the pinnacle of evolution. So again, another reference there, like it's this all connected in that way. And to top it all off, one thing about this whole WandaVision show is that it's going to lead us into the next Doctor Strange movie. So all of these points of, all these dots that may or may not connect, they're all absolutely related.
And what's really interesting about that is originally WandaVision was supposed to come out and then Doctor Strange would have come out like 2 months later, or not even that, like a month later after the last episode. So it was like a direct roll in. But now Doctor Strange,
but because of COVID.
And because of everything else, Doctor Strange has been coming out for like 2 years. So Fahey has already said that, they're used to having switched things up. So he's like, don't trip. But it seems that what they've done now to switch things up is because Doctor Strange is this multiverse of madness, and they're going to have Peter Parker doing all kind of wild shit in Spider-Man 3 leading up to that. There's also, this is a rumor, but this rumor seems pretty confirmed right now that Evan Peters, who played Quicksilver in the X-Men films, is going to show up in WandaVision.
He is, because he is in the IMDb page.
There we go.
He absolutely is. I don't know how many episodes, but he's absolutely showing up for at least one episode.
Yeah, because he posted something earlier today and then deleted it. So people are still, but there you go. It seems that he's going to show up. So it seems that most of Phase 4 this is kicking off is going to be dealing with multiverse and time shenanigans, dimension hopping, all that type of stuff. So, and Adam Warlock is finally actually supposed to show up in Phase 4 as well at some point. So we will see that.
So that's why I'm like, perhaps that's what's going on here. Who knows?
I'm going to put money that the dude is... But the flies throw me off. The flies or the bees throw me off. I would just say that he's Sword.
Yeah.
But the bees really throw me off.
I mean, I don't, I'm not even going to speculate further because I'm like, no matter what, we're going to be wrong. We're going to be really close, but not quite, because Kevin Feige and friends are very good at misdirection. So, and especially with the fact that with this one character, we named 5 different references that could go in either direction. That's what they want. So we're going to move on to the next character. I do want to mention Dottie, who is the neighbor who, as I mentioned, she's essentially the boss of Westview, that town. And she's the first person to, not be like all like bubblegum like everybody else. She's much more like lay down the law, serious. And she also is the first person to tell Wanda that she thinks something is up with her and Vision. Which is like, okay, is this also another person who, got inserted into this world? Is this a figment of Wanda's imagination that's starting to break down? Like, what is she really?
Now, and Dottie also has the second bug out moment, right?
Yes.
When Dottie cuts her hand, not only do we see the blood and red, Dottie for a second has that moment where she's like, I'm cut, this is fucked up, all that. And then instantly goes back and makes a joke, and we hear the audience laughing again, and it's like we're back in this Truman Show, sitcom, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, the first one that we didn't mention earlier is the Hart family when they come to dinner in the first episode, right? Like we talked about earlier, the first episode is shot completely like a 50s sitcom, which is pretty much one camera, wide shots of the living room, everything in focus all at once. Until they sit down to have dinner and Mr. Hart starts choking. Some people have said that Wanda actually forces Mr. Hart to start choking when he starts asking too many questions.
That's what I'm thinking, because
she does wink, which could be her using her magic power right then.
Oh, I didn't see her wink. It's just that the way the timing was just a little suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. It was a little suspicious. And the fact that they're all just kind of like sitting there, and then the wife, and again, this is also could be part of this weird universe they're in, but the wife is just like, stop that. Stop that. Like he's like her husband is joking, but her husband is choking to death. Yes. But the fact that the wife seemingly doesn't notice and understand what's happening makes me think more to your point that perhaps Wanda did this on purpose to try to stop Mr. Hart from asking questions.
Or is the wife telling Wanda stop that, or telling Wanda and Vision stop that? Like, is she like, y'all are in control of this world, stop my husband from choking? There's a lot of things right there where I'm not sure, because it seems that everything breaks. And when everything breaks, the camera starts going into single shots of them, real weird, exaggerated angles and stuff. Shit that you never saw in a 50s sitcom. Shit you never saw on TV back then in general. But that's what it is. It's like the world is breaking. And then as soon as, throughout the episode, we've seen that Vision is nothing but, everyone in the episode, they do everything with practical effects, right? the saucers floating, all this stuff is practical. But when Mr. Hart starts choking and Wanda says, save him, Vision reaches into his chest and it's all CGI again.
Yeah.
A Vision pulling that thing out of his throat. Mm-hmm. So then right away it goes back and we're back to the wide angle shots. The audience, the laugh track hits up again. Everybody's back to normal and they bounce like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, yeah.
These are the two times where it's like breaks down and then right away it snaps back.
And Mr. Hart as a character, he is Vision's boss at his computational. What is there?
Who knows? My man was sitting there talking about if we do the paper horizontally versus vertically, we can get more done on it.
Like yo, what the fuck?
What are you even talking about?
Like they work at Computational Services Inc., which is
there
CSI.
We go, CSI.
Anyway, and then of course his wife, Mrs. Hart. Is that all the characters? We didn't talk about Norm, we didn't talk about Norm, Vision's coworker. Mm-hmm. And at least the most talkative one thus far. And
Norm is the little looks like he's the East Indian dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And interestingly, in the comics, there was a character called Norm. His name was Norm Webster, and he was the real estate agent that sold Scarlet Witch and Vision their house in Leonia, New Jersey, after their first one was destroyed. So their second house. Then I think the last character that we didn't mention yet is Herb.
Yes.
That's the black dude that's at their meeting. What's that second episode?
The neighborhood watch meeting.
The neighborhood watch meeting, which was hilarious. He was like, we don't really do anything at this meeting, right? We just eat, scones or whatever. And gossip. What's the interesting thing about Herb?
Herb is possibly the high evolutionary, which is, oh man, we are just dropping so much random Marvel shit on people right now. But high evolutionary is another character, as his name implies. He is the high evolutionary. He is a dude who evolution is all he about. So at one point, he creates these things called the New Men, which are basically animals that he has evolved into where they are bipedal and walking around and talking and all that. And he creates this whole city of them up in the mountains. I think he does it so they can battle some evil demon that's in the mountains. Mm-hmm. Comic faults, right?
Right.
But one of these New Men, Bova.
Oh, we got...
Wait, what were you going to say?
I was just going to close off Herb, and we get to Bova later because it gets really confusing,
convoluted. Yes,
and very convoluted. The interesting thing about him, because I just realized it, because you said his character or the character he may be referenced as is the High Evolutionary. I just mentioned there's a whole group who's concerned with making the most evolved human. Called the Beekeeper. So it's this all connected. I keep feeling like this circle keeps getting wider.
Yep. But Herb might be the high. People are surmising that Herb is the High Evolutionary only because the High Evolutionary's real name is Herbert, and so people are like,
Herbert Edgar Wyndham.
Yeah, Wyndham. Yes.
Very nose in the air type of name, but
Google the High Evolutionary, y'all. I love his costume. It's just one of the illest costumes in comics to me. So check him out. But yes, he created this race of new men. One of them is called Bova, who is a woman who is a cow, or a cow woman, I guess is the proper terminology.
Mm-hmm. That's part of the Easter eggs.
Yeah. I'll just mention Bova because, the new men and all that. Yeah. And I think we're done with characters, right? So
yeah, we're done with the characters. So we talked about while we won't go into each, every single scene, we did want to talk about the themes of the show. Mm-hmm. So we touched on it a lot already. We talked about the idea of everything being based in this TV show format. And I like how you express this here, Ben, the idea of television dictating modern life.
Mm-hmm. Because, like television and media has always pretty much controlled and shown people how life is lived. Like, I was watching this movie. I was watching one of the American Pie movies today. And somebody walked up to somebody at a dance and was like, "Can I cut in?" And I was like, yo, that has never happened to me in real life. But I've seen it in so many TV shows. I'm going to tweet that. Like, has that ever happened to y'all? You know, has anyone ever cut in on a dance with you? You know, with you?
I feel like that's wild disrespectful. But maybe it's just me. And
it's
like, I'm like, yes, I mind. No, you can't dance with my man.
And
like,
who thought that this was cool? You know, how did this become a thing in television, right? Where people are always cutting in. But that type of thing where people learn from TV, right? And back in the day, as we see on the show, television couples slept in beds that were apart, which is just, you know, so weird. But it's because of America being conservative and all that, and they don't want to have too much sexiness on
Super
TV.
Christian,
you know,
Bible Belt.
So you had beds being separated. But then as the show moves on into the second episode, I mean, it's really this the only time you see them in their beds. But first their beds are separated, and then the beds move together. Boom, right?
Wanda moves them together.
Because we're seeing more development where shows are being more willing to show how, you know, real life is. You know, real life people, married couples that not sleep in separate twin beds.
Yeah. I wonder also if, like I said, besides being this, in my head, a bubble universe, bubble world, is this also indicative of Wanda's development? Like, if she is in a very traumatic place where she's just not herself, and the fact that each episode is going through each time period of TV, like we start in the 50s, then we go into the 60s, and then obviously then at the end of this second episode, the whole episode goes into full color, full Technicolor. We're going into the 70s, and so on and so forth. Is this the evolution of her as a person, of her being in this place? Like, is this her growing and becoming more understanding of what's happening and becoming more aware? Because, you know, if you think about it, again, the evolution of TV, the evolution of Wanda, it's black and white and very old school traditional gender roles and things like that. And then as it goes forward, things start, as you say, the way she dresses. You know, she had that special that 50s dress, very, you know, very impractical when you think about it. And then she's wearing a pants, like a pant outfit. And then she's probably going to be wearing some type of 70s, you know, Flower Childs type stuff next, and then goes on and on and on. Where it's like, when you think about it, when you think about America, like the evolution of womanhood or the evolution of family and all of that, it just feels like this is just a mirror of the evolution of her, whether mentally, emotionally, whatever it may be.
And it's also, like you said, this is also because we see this in the commercials that are in these episodes. This also relates to Wanda's childhood, right? Wanda grew up in Sokovia. And so she's watching America from a distance. Like most people in Europe and other countries, they see America through television. So they see very idealized ideas about what America is. Yeah. So this is Wanda, what she wanted. Like, people have asked, did her accent go? But this is what Wanda thinks of is the American woman. No accent, none of that. So Wanda's portraying herself in this world as the, you know, idealized American woman. The Stepford Wives. We already talked about Truman Show. Another great movie that this references is Pleasantville, where the kids get trapped in the black and white world and keep bringing color into it as they, you know, open up the world. It's kind of like Footloose for color, because it's the same type of theory, really. It's like Footloose, you know, the conservative town. White boy comes in dancing, you know, and everybody opens up and, you know, everybody has a Coke and a fucking smile at the end or some shit. But
not a Coke and a smile. Not a Coke and a smile.
Yeah, you know, give the world some hope.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to say about like the whole idea of TV, like TV as dictating life, and, you know, and art imitating life imitating art?
Well, also, like, as we move in, like the first episode is the Dick Van Dyke Show, also referencing shows like Mary Tyler Moore, which was one of the first shows that really started portraying the independent woman and stuff, and really changed the game, you know, like really opened up the world where women would see this stuff and be like, oh no, I want that type of life. You know, I don't want this type of life that I saw that every show told me I had to have before this. You know, now it's like shows are telling you can have this type of life, you can have that type of life. Then we move into one thing real quick about the first episode. The first episode ends with the freeze framing them looking at the camera, like we said, the credits rolling, and the hexagon closing in on them. Yep. And that's typical of like those old school shows. But the idea of the hexagon, we see the little flash of the magic, is obviously Wanda's, well, not obviously, for those who read comic books, Wanda's power used to be referred to as the hex power. She casts hexes on people, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the hexagon. Also 6 sides, 6 infinity stones. Boom, boom, boom. Right?
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So, like, that was my thing watching the show. I was like, yo, like, that was my thing. I'm like, are there more Easter eggs than there's story in these 2 episodes?
I mean, let's continue. So,
right. But
let's continue in terms of themes.
Yeah.
So I saw one of the big things I saw is this questioning of what is normal, what is real, what is reality again, which is why I'm like, this can't, this is a world of her making. Maybe she's under duress, but it's still maybe her making. There's constant talk about between Wanda and Vision talking about trying to fit in, trying to be a normal couple. I mean, that's something that they've talked about for the longest when they were, secretly dating each other before they even came out as a couple. But especially now in this world where, as you say, they're trying to, or Wanda particularly, is trying to live this idealized a frame of reference that she thinks that they should be. She wants she makes Vision change his face to look more human. She hides her powers. Everything's so secretive. But is that normal? Is that like they're not normal people? So what exactly is normal? The fact that they don't seem to know how they got there or even the details of their own relationship. And the idea of them being these old school sitcom TV worlds. And it seems like minus the racism, because if you think about it, like in this show from the 50s, like you wouldn't be seeing Monica Rambeau and the rest of them in there.
Norm.
Or her.
None of them.
So, yeah.
It's also interesting, something from the first to the second show, and I'm sure we'll see this in the third episode, is that Wanda, whoever is doing this, is filling in this world. In the first episode, it's like a damn near empty cul-de-sac. There's just nothing in there. And
like they moved in.
Yeah, like they moved in. And she's like one of the first people in the neighborhood. And then there's like the Van Dyke home that they're in. Second episode, without any warning or anything, completely new house they're in. Neighborhood is now
change?
Completely changed. Completely. When she's rolling the magic cabinet into the living room, it's not the same living room anymore. Like, that shit was a mad open house with their little stovetop fireplace over there. And, they had the double open windows to the kitchen. None of that's there anymore in the second episode. There's stairs leading down into the living room. It's just a completely different house. And I've already seen clips from the third episode, which is the Brady Bunch house, where they're like recreating the Brady Bunch house. So they're going to be in a different house then. When she steps outside, the neighborhood is now filled in. You see a mailman and all this stuff in the second episode. Like, there's actual people. They have meetings. They go to the pool. There's all this stuff. So it's like the world is being created and filled in as Wanda, whoever's like, oh, I need more details to make this more real.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, the next theme was time and clocks. So you question all of her abilities. She could damn near do anything.
Yeah, even in the comments, it's like whatever they needed her to do at any moment, Wanda would do.
Right. So one of her abilities is to manipulate time and control time, time stone notwithstanding. They call it, one of the ways to call it is chronokinesis. So that means, slowing down time, freezing time, doing time travel, manipulating the duration of anything, which is basically like you're accelerating time. Like if it takes 10 minutes to cook something, she can do it in 20 seconds or something like that. Point is, that's just the power she has. So, there's tons of references to time, and there's various times shown throughout the WandaVision world and in the commercial, particularly in the commercials. I don't know if we should dwell too much on those times because they could just be throwaway stuff.
Yeah.
Perhaps a pattern will come up later, but considering that they're, to me, in this bubble universe, it to me was more indicative of time not mattering. Like,
also, I rewatched pretty much all of the Wanda and Vision movies, like Age of Ultron, Civil War, and everything. And they made so many references to stealing time. That's like their whole thing. Like, even in Infinity War, they're together before they get attacked, and they're talking about, we stole the last 2 years. We've been doing this, stealing moments, all this, and that's a constant thing with them. So this is them finally getting the time that they've always been trying to have together. And I'll say, when I rewatch all their movies, like, it's not much But they do a good job of developing their relationship, considering they had like 20 million other characters to deal with at the same time.
You know what, I have I say this famously. I've famously
Yes.
not liked their
Yep.
relationship, or to me the lack thereof. I just never felt the chemistry, but I do feel it in this show.
Oh, they're incredible in
I
this show.
really do feel it
Yeah.
in this show. And again, maybe that's, like you said, the movies had so many other characters and themes and arcs to deal with that they just really didn't have the time to develop it.
Yeah.
But I just never gave a damn about them. But now I'm like, oh, they're stuck in the in the
they're
storybook
so cute.
together.
No.
So I actually
great.
like them. Yes, I like them now.
Vision, that's the Vision and Scarlet Witch that's like my couple as a kid. Like that was my favorite couple.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I love them, because I related to Vision to being that weird dude, and then, Scarlet Witch was hot and, she had dope powers. So I just loved them. And that miniseries by Steve Englehart, I would not recommend it. It doesn't it's not like this great series, but that as a kid, I'm reading this series about them trying to have this family, and then they had the kids at the end, and it was just all sweet. And then this dude, John Byrne, comes along and just F's it all up a few years later. And, comics.
And then finally in this time theme category, in both the toasters and the watch commercials that are in between those episodes, there's a ticking sound, even a countdown, which is references to things in the past as well as the future, and of course time itself. So as you say, is time counting down? Like that's as you say, they're stealing time to be together, but do they not have a lot of time left in this world? Is she going to get pulled out eventually? What's going on?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got the other theme in the second episode, which really hits hard, is for the children. Because they're having this whole big talent show for the children of the town, even though we see none of them.
Children.
No.
I noticed that. I was like, wait a minute, where are all the kids at?
Yeah. Where are all the kids enjoying this magic show?
Right. Why were the grown adults enjoying it? And I'm like, what is the point? But anyway, that's happening.
There are no kids in this town. Maybe because this town ain't been filled in with kids yet. One ain't realized, I need kids here too to make this town more real. But no, there are no kids. They're having this big production for the children.
They keep repeating for the children.
They keep repeating it. They chant it even.
It's very like cult. As you
Children
say, Children of the Corn is weird.
Mm-hmm. Agnes keeps bringing up, and all her appearances, every time she sees Wanda, it's either fuck, or have kids. That's pretty much what she's telling her.
Agnes.
Fuck and then have kids. You know what I mean? That's all she about. So there is this thing, and then at the end of the second episode, Wanda, out of nowhere, is pregnant.
Yep, like you see her stomach grow.
Right.
Like, oh, okay. And
then
which aligns with the books. Which aligns with the
books, because she becomes pregnant out of nowhere pretty much in the books. Yeah. Then she asks Vision, is this real? And then Vision's distracted by this noise that he keeps hearing throughout this episode outside. Vision, of course, being the analytical dude, goes to investigate, and that's when we see the beekeeper. Not
without first being scared, which hilarious. Why is the Vision scared? You're
super
an android, dude. You're pretty much impervious. What are you scared about?
Because the Vision's been killed twice.
He ain't trying to get got by the boogeyman. He ain't trying to get got by the monster under the bed. No, I just and again, that also should show you that there's something not quite right with where they are, because why would Vision, being, as you say, an android and analytical, why would he even experience fear or an approximation of fear?
When earlier he said he can't even experience exaggeration.
So which one is it? Is it Uchiwali or is it what, Mike?
Somebody had to say it. So he goes outside to investigate. That's when we see the beekeeper. Wanda is immediately like, nah, I'm good. I'm good, actually.
That was so cool. She just said no. Very forceful no. And that's what I mean when I say she has these moments of being lucid, where she's just either lucid or she decides, okay, I'm not going to play along. This is not happening. She says no. She rewinds reality, which again is her chronokinesis. She rewinds the bubble reality they're in to look, basically
Thanos never had no damn VHS effect when he hit rewind on Vision's head. There was no VHS effect.
I mean, so she does that to basically remove the beekeeper person, whatever they are, from the situation.
Or does she just remove Vision from going out to see what the beekeeper? That's the thing.
Or that. And again, that goes back to what we were saying about time and all the other stuff.
And then once again, she asked Vision, "Is this real?" She asked him that both times. She asked him, "Is this real?" When she realizes she's pregnant. But then Vision goes outside to see what's going on. Then this time she asks, "Is this real?" He says yes, and the color comes into the scene. And
so that's why I'm just like, all of these times of lucidness, and when the characters like Dottie and Mr. Hart are like, Mr. Hart choking and Dottie crushing the glass in her hand, like you hear like this pinging noise and everyone's just staring at each other, not moving. It's really weird. Like, is this the Sword Agents or someone else getting through to Wanda? Like, is the reality actually breaking at that point? Like, what's happening?
Man, I don't know.
I don't know. And to finally round out the themes, the last one we have here is "You're being watched." Of course, we talked about earlier that they had the neighborhood watch program that they didn't really watch anything. There's the literal take of this as us as an audience. We're watching Wanda and Vision in a TV show, which of course Wanda, she breaks the fourth wall a few times. She, as sometimes and other characters, recognize that things may not be what they seem, but they go right back into it. And as you say, you hear real laugh tracks and just strange things that would say, well, this is a TV show. This is just a set, but it's just not computing.
Yeah, I just had a thought because they say that and we already see it, they're going through the eras of sitcoms and stuff like that. So are they eventually going to get to, what was the first break the fourth wall sitcom? Like, I know recently it's been Dirtbag or Fleabag has been a big one, but I know that's not the first one. So is Wanda eventually just going to start talking to the camera?
Like, I'm going to say not like House of Cards. Like,
I don't know how House of Cards does it too, but yeah, like
they do Fleabag. It a lot.
Yeah, Fleabag does it. It's comedy with Fleabag. But I know there was one in like the 80s or 90s too, but it probably wasn't that big. But I wonder, I'm sure they're going to, because like you said, they've already got her looking at the camera, so why not just go all the way?
It's a common trope that a lot of shows deal with, which works really well to great effect.
What if they do like writing? Sex in the City? Wasn't Samantha always like thinking?
She was talking out loud to herself.
Yeah.
I mean, she was thinking out loud to herself. So
they're going to do a Sex in the City shout out. They have to do that at some point.
Whatever, they don't have to.
Because they're going to do Married with Children. We know that much. I've seen.
Are they?
I've seen the clips of that look like Married with Children. Hell yeah, that's coming probably. That's probably a week 4.
Okay.
Yeah. Because Shorty was in her little like a robot. Agnes is in their robot's outfit from the 80s.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. Oh, right. With her hair all 80'd out. It's great. Right. Yeah.
Also in the "You Are Being Watched" theme, we mentioned WandaVision knowing they need to hide their powers because they don't want anybody to see what's going on. And the fact, like, even when poor Vision is drunk off of some fucking gum, he, Wanda's constantly trying to hide. Like, people are literally watching them. And they're going through these motions and like basically they could get caught any moment, but she's able to kind of mask it all away.
And once again, that's her trying to keep the illusion going.
Yes, and then obviously you mentioned earlier, at the end of each episode appears to be an agent or someone of some sort watching them on an old school monitor. So you are being watched in many, many degrees.
Which also goes back to the Truman Show idea. This also seems to be paying tribute to Truman Show, Pleasantville, and a lot of other things like that, where people are being watched. So there we go.
Yeah. So that rounds out all of the characters and all the main themes that we've watched for these first 2 episodes. We're going to close this out with Easter eggs and inspirations that we saw, which are tons. And Ben, I like how you said that earlier. You're like, is this more Easter egg than story? Or
that's how I felt the first times watching it. I've watched the episodes twice and I enjoyed them, but I also was like, wow, y'all are really heavy on these.
I just think that's the first few episodes because they're trying to acclimate you as much as they can to a very strange situation. And also, based on what I've been reading, like the last 2 episodes they say are going to be very a typical Marvel action, like action scene. So it's got to build up to a story, especially with Monica Rambeau / Geraldine being there.
Yeah, we've seen some of those clips where she's like, "Vision, this is our home. Let's defend it," and it looked like it looked like Civil War or anything. So
yeah.
That's coming.
Okay. You mentioned the first Easter egg / inspiration I want you to talk about, because you mentioned it earlier, is Bova. Who and what is Bova, and why does this matter?
Okay.
And where do you even see this reference of Bova?
Yes. All right. In the second episode, the first episode opens with the Dick Van Dyke opening. The second opening is like a Bewitched opening, which is all animated. And because it's animated, they throw in reference upon reference upon reference. There's a shot of Wanda and Geraldine, Monica in a grocery store, standing there talking together. In the background, we have 3 different signs. The first one is Wonder something, which is covered up by Wanda's head. I'll get back to
Wonder
that.
Bread, right? Or something.
Yeah, Wonder Bread, whatever. The second one is drink Bova milk or whatever, right? Which is our Bova reference. Okay. Wow. I'm just trying to figure out how to go about this. Anyway, Bova, like I said before, is created by the High Evolutionary. She's this cow woman who at one point acts as midwife to Wanda, and Pietro quits over her brother and then raises them when something happens to their mom.
Mm-hmm. And you could just leave it there. You could just leave it there.
Yeah, I can leave it there, but there's so many parentages and all this shit for even Wanda. Like, you know, at one point Magneto was her father, then he wasn't. Who knows? I don't know.
The one I know is that Magneto's her dad.
Yeah, as I grew up, Magneto was her daddy. So that's how, Magneto is her daddy to me. But
the story I know is that Magneto got this woman named Magda pregnant.
Magda,
his
which
wife.
is always so great. Magneto and Magda.
Magneto and Magda, they were married. He got her pregnant. Magda left him because she wasn't fucking with him. He was wilding. As you say, Bova is a midwife to Magda and helps Magda deliver her twins, Pietro and Wanda. Yes. And of course, as you say, Bova just helps raise the kids. And regardless of what the parentage is, the point is Bova is at least in the comics, was essential to their upbringing, at least early on.
Yes. Okay. Now back to Wonder Man, Wonder Bread, right? The Wonder Bread references Wonder Man, who is another character who is an Avenger. He's this dude named Simon Williams. He first shows up in an issue of Avengers. He joins the Avengers, then he betrays them and he dies. All in like 2 issues. You know, this is early comic books where things move quick. My man dies, dead for years. While he's dead, Ultron comes along and wants to create Vision. Ultron steals Simon Williams' brain patterns for some reason. Simon's a good candidate, I guess, and makes them into Vision. Vision, then goes on to join the Avengers, fights Ultron, etc., joins the Avengers, falls in love with Scarlet Witch. They start dating. Wonder Man comes back to life, of course. Wonder Man comes back to life. Later on, Vision dies. Wonder Man says he's in love with Scarlet Witch because it was his brain patterns that caused Vision to fall in love with her in the first place. They start dating. It's grotesque. Like, I hate that shit. I hate it.
Regardless of it's grotesque, it's just confusing.
Super confusing. To add to the confusion, in the animated opening, we also see this helmet, which is the Grim Reaper's helmet. Not the traditional Grim Reaper. Grim Reaper is a supervillain in Marvel named Eric Williams. Eric, obviously Simon Williams, Eric is his brother. When Simon dies, Eric blames the Avengers and becomes the Grim Reaper and tries to, kill them all. But actually just gets himself killed like 2 or 3 times, if I remember correctly. Like, he stays taking L's because he ain't got no powers. All he has is a little scythe or whatever. And he stays getting served and resurrected, whatever. So seeing that all these references are there, and people have seen like artwork of Wonder Man in the offices of the people working on this show. So it seems that we might actually see, Wonder Man in some way, form, and Grim Reaper show up. I hope so, because I love Wonder Man. I just hated that whole thing with him stealing Vision's Daryl. That was gross. But
it's also wild because the MCU version of Vision, he came about completely different.
It
had nothing to do with this guy,
but but we're going to have to get him in there somehow, because, it's like, that's what the MCU does. They're going to figure out a way to make it work, you know?
Another Easter egg.
I actually got through that. That was amazing.
You see what I'm saying? It's like, you just got to know when to stop. Like,
we
give you a lot of information, but we're not going to give you everything.
It gets worse. Yeah.
The next Easter egg, Wanda, when she's after she's killing herself to make dinner, which was so ridiculous. It was very I Love Lucy. Like, it was just off the wall. But she pours a bottle of wine, which has the name Maison de mes fils, which could be a reference to House of M, because that wine named French, it means house of like contempt. And you know,
and it's also House of M, literally.
And House of M. That whole situation came out of contempt. So here you are.
And who are we? The quickest version of House of M is that Wanda. We were talking about her having these twins. Her twins get taken away from her, like they're just gone from the earth. You know, right? She loses her children. Agatha Harkness makes her forget that she ever had children. Erases the memory of the children from anyone on the planet Earth. So she basically never knew she had kids.
But she finds out.
Then years later, of course, she finds out. She bugs out, gets mad as, you know, she should, and creates this whole world, House of M, where Magneto is ruler of the planet. Mutants are basically all on top doing their thing. She has her children. Everything's great. Eventually, she finds out this world is fake, and Magneto's just as dirty and evil in this world as he is in the other world. And so she utters the famous line, "No more mutants."
Yeah.
Erases House of M and pretty much erases most of the millions of mutants on Earth, reduces them down to a few hundred. Once again.
House of M is a wild storyline, but it's definitely something you should read, especially with this WandaVision show, just to get a lot more background into the characters and into her potential motivations. Something I learned while researching is the townsfolk, if you will, the nosy neighbors and this person and that person. All these different people who we met and probably will continue to meet as we go along in this series. They could be the Salem 7, or there could be some connection to the Salem 7.
Yep.
Salem 7 was a group of magically mutated mutants, superhumans.
Superhumans, not mutants, yeah.
All of them shared the same father, Nicholas Scratch. We mentioned Nicholas Scratch before, at least by name, when we said that Agatha Harkness has a rabbit that she named Senor Scratch. So there's something going on there. The Salem 7 all like lived together in this place called New Salem, and they were initially led by who else? Agatha Harkness.
They all get blown up pretty good in the Scarlet Witch and Vision series too.
Okay.
Yeah, they get served. I can't remember what they were trying to do, but they were trying to do something wild, and they all get blown up pretty well.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought the most important part of this whole Salem 7 thing is that when you look them up, their allies include obviously Nicholas Scratch, New Warriors, one of your faves, and the Doctor Strange, which would lead us into the whole Doctor Strange story in the MCU film coming up.
Yeah.
You talked about before about the hex symbol, Wanda's power.
The ending of the first episode is a hex symbol. The second episode ends in the diamond, like
which is the stone on
Vision's head.
Right.
Abe.
Talk about this one. What's this about?
Okay, which one?
Abe, you were talking
about. Abe Brown, right? When the credits are rolling on the first episode, it says directed by Abe Brown. And Abe Brown, like we said, is a student at Peters High School who was on the debate team with him. He's a young black kid. In the comics, Abe Brown also becomes this character called the Black Tiger, a martial artist. Long story. But in the movies, he's just on the debate team with Peter. But remember, the blip happened, and we're 5 years ahead at this point. So Abe might be one of those kids who didn't get blipped out and grew up, graduated. Didn't get snapped, graduated, moved on with his life, and is now somehow directing parallel universe episodes of WandaVision. I have no idea.
Who the hell knows?
Let's talk about these commercials.
Let's talk about the commercials.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. In the first episode, we have this commercial for the Toastmate 2000, which is a toaster produced by Stark Industries. There's this couple, a man and a woman, sitting there. They first put some bread into the first toaster, and it cooks it instantly. And then they put it into the overcooks.
It burns it.
Yeah. Burns that joint crisp.
And then the man says, he said, "Hey, husbands, are you tired of your wife burning your toast?" Like, nigga, what? Again, these crazy gender roles that they got going on.
But that's classic, commercials and classic TV. That's how it was. So then they get the Toastmate 2000, the new joint, and they're sitting there and they're waiting, and it's ticking.
And they're looking dead at the camera.
and they're looking dead at the camera all creepily. There's a red light flashing on it, and it takes forever, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, this is made by Stark Industries. Mm-hmm. Now, the reference that everybody was pulling from these is
there's some memory.
It takes some memory, but it's also so cold-blooded and disturbing. I'm hoping that this is just people thinking of this.
No, I want it to be this so bad. Please say this.
The first one burns the bread to a crisp. It's like, God, it's so gross to say it. Scarlet Witch and Pietro's parents were killed by a bomb that was a Stark Industries bomb. It burned them to a crisp. Mm-hmm. Then for days, they had to sit there and wait and look at the second bomb, which didn't detonate.
But they thought it would. So the whole time they thought they were going to die.
The whole time they thought they were going to die, they're sitting there with this ticking bomb with Stark Industries written on the side of it. So, is the Toastmaster a reference to Wanda's childhood? Since everything else in these shows seems to be a reference to Wanda's childhood. And if so, that is the most cold-blooded writing that I've ever seen. Like,
more reason that this is a world of whether she's being additionally influenced or not. It's a world of her making.
The toaster also goes back to the comic books. Vision has been famously called a toaster throughout his history. People always be like, this toaster. John Byrne, the writer-artist who I brought up before, famously got upset when Vision and Scarlet Witch fell in love and married. And he was like, there's no way you can marry a toaster. No way or a toaster could have children. I can't remember what his whole thing was. But
he was really upset.
John Byrne's one of them dudes, if he don't like it, he don't like it. F your feelings, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so he destroyed Vision, basically killed Vision off, recreated him where he didn't have any memories of their marriage and had no emotional connection to Wanda. And so they basically fall apart. And that's when Wonder Man started coming on to Wanda. It was disgusting, Ugh.
Unrelatedly, it's just, I don't know why I thought about this, but if you are a Battlestar Galactica fan, they refer to Cylons as toasters.
Yep. Yeah, it comes up so much in sci-fi. Aliens, robots are always being called toasters.
Yeah.
In the Tom King Vision series, another comic book that we highly recommend you read through if you want to get some more background on this series. It has one of the best summations of Vision and Wanda's whole relationship in one of the issues ever, but in that issue they refer to Vision as a toaster several times. Yep.
All right, and then we have the second commercial.
The second commercial in the second episode is for a Strucker watch, and as we mentioned before, Baron von Strucker was one of the members of Hydra who left and formed AIM. So we have this Strucker watch, and Strucker was also the guy who experimented on Wanda and Pietro, probably giving them their powers.
Them.
Yes, yeah. So we have these two commercials with the same couple shows up again, dude and this woman. So we're wondering, are those the parents of Wanda and Quicksilver?
Or are they agents?
More
agents that are trying to get through to her. I mean, but the thing is, which agents are they, right? Because in the Strucker watch commercials, you have the Hydra name and logo on the watch.
Yep.
So who do they work for? Again, this whole thing about being watched or stuff. Baron
the toaster was Stark.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Baron Wolfgang von Strucker was the name of the villain in the Age of Ultron movie.
Yeah, he has some of the best lines. He's like, he tells all his men, "We will never surrender," and they all run out the door. He turns to his homie, "I'm about to surrender to the Avengers."
Absolutely. So there's lots of, the thing about this is that it's opening. I mean, that's the whole, one of the main points of this WandaVision series is to expand the universe of Marvel even further. Like, also help to open up more doorways for things like mutants and stuff like that, but also to help introduce these new organizations. We mentioned AIM, we mentioned SWORD, we mentioned, we've always been talking about Hydra, but always been talking about SHIELD. But there's even more that are coming to pass. And they're all related to all of these newer characters, as we talked about, Monica and Rambeau and Captain Marvel and things like that. So it's just, it is important to really start grasping on all of these different organizations.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of organizations, I think we mentioned them really quick, but the voice that you hear during the episode,
Yep.
we hear someone calling out to Wanda, "Who is doing this to you, Wanda? Who is doing this to you?" And that voice is Jimmy Woo Randall Park, who we saw in the Ant-Man films, working for SWORD, working for SHIELD, not sure what, but he's looking for, Wanda, obviously, and trying to find out what's going on with her.
Yeah. This show, we mentioned lots of different books and stories. One of the ones you should absolutely read is Tom King's The Vision series.
Mm-hmm.
That is I remember when Ben first brought it up, like 2.5 years ago now?
Probably 3 now.
Yeah. One of the best comics I've ever read, and it's really amazing. And there's so many references and beats from that book that have been directly, either specifically or like even just a hair different away from the book that have shown up in WandaVision. So I absolutely recommend reading that. Also, kind of an Easter egg there.
And speaking of another one real quick.
Yeah.
In the second episode, we have the Magical Senate episode. The vanishing cabinet that they're using for the magic trick has the Soul Stone on the front of it. Also, the stage names that they use when they're doing their magic show are Glamour and Illusion. And Glamour and Illusion are actually two characters from the Vision and Wanda Scarlet Witch and Vision series that was written by Steve Englehart. It came out back in the 80s, and that's the one we were talking about before, where they moved to the suburbs and have these two kids for the first time. Yeah. So they meet this couple, Glamour and Illusion, who are actually, they're the same thing. They're stage magicians who are pretending to not have powers. Mm-hmm. But they're living in the, same suburbs, and they meet and they hang out and, have like suburb type shit happen with them.
Suburb shit.
Yeah. So that's Glamour and Illusion. And I just read on Wikipedia that Illusion eventually ends up getting murked off, which is so wild because they're like not the characters who should be getting murked. It's like, come on, man. They should still be living in the suburbs somewhere right now.
Right.
But no, comics.
Who knows? Rounding out the references, the Easter eggs, rather, that date that had the heart on the calendar was August 23rd. It could be nothing, could mean something. That something could be a reference to Avengers 238. In that story, interestingly enough, all of these characters almost all the characters that show up in WandaVision are also in this book. So, Monica Rambeau's in there, Photon's in there, Vision's in there, Scarlet Witch is in there. I don't know the details of the actual story, but a lot of the same characters show up again.
Oh, that's the story when Vision first tries to take over the world.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't match up at all. That doesn't match up at all with this series.
Yeah, no, trust. He does it more than once too. Yeah. So no. Yeah, I don't know if that one's. I'm not sure. But speaking of numbers, the numbers A57 show up in the animated opening once again on the second episode. When Vision is at the water cooler with Norm, they're having some water. And if you look very closely on the water cooler, the numbers A57 are on it, which is a direct reference to Avengers 57, the first appearance of the Vision.
Okay.
God damn it. Like, it's too many Easter eggs.
Well, that's good because we're done with the Easter eggs. The only thing that's left is the music.
Yeah.
Episode 1 this was?
Yes.
Yakety Yak. What's that song?
Yakety Yak comes up in the office when Vision's first at the office. It is a song written, produced, and arranged by the Jewish songwriters Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller. And it was written for Black performers, the Coasters, who the song is actually making fun of suburban white life.
Okay.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. So Yakety Yak, don't thought that's mad, blah, blah, blah. That's the song you hear that. The second major song that we hear is Help Me Rhonda by the Beach Boys, which is playing when Dottie cuts her hand. It's playing in the background. And as Randall Park's voice comes in, it was an ill edit where as he says Wanda, they have it over to Help Me Rhonda.
Because it's rhymes, yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, help me Wanda, help me Wanda. And then you hear him saying, Wanda, who's doing this to you?
Right. So, like, is she hearing him calling to her? So she, remember how you said she keeps maintaining the illusion that she just turned on that song in her bubble society?
I'm not sure, but it's so funny too because in Age of Ultron, no, and wait, which one is that? I got them. I watched them all together at once. Oh, in Civil War, when Hawkeye comes to get Wanda from the Avengers compound and she won't leave, he's like, "You got to help me, Wanda." I was like, "Oh, that was so good and so bad."
That's funny.
Yeah, you got to help me, Wanda.
Okay, so I think, again, that was pretty dense in terms of the types of the amount of information and what we covered. But we talked everything about episodes 1 and 2 of WandaVision.
Wow.
So, just to close this out, what are you looking forward to? Like, again, we know based on this pattern that we've seen that the next episode is going to be based in the 70s.
I'm looking for Monica Rambeau to show up in her photon outfit because I've seen glimpses of it, and I need to see that black and
you think
white.
She's going to wear it when she's at the Halloween costume situation?
I don't know, because the glimpses I've seen are like the real joint. Not no Halloween, like not those fake Halloween costumes they're wearing in that one episode. No, it looked like it's in the poster that's posted on the For All Nerds Instagram. Like when she has all the televisions in front of her, if you look behind the televisions, you can see the black and white Captain Marvel photon outfit.
Oh, really?
Yes. Oh, really? It's there. Yeah.
What? So, it's in those cards that they've been passing out.
Yeah.
Those
The one where they have because both of them do that when they're standing. They have one with Wanda and she's got all the televisions, but you can see a different Scarlet Witch outfit behind them, like more a real comics appropriate outfit. So I think they're moving them all into their at least closer to because Scarlet Witch's MCU outfits have been pretty whack so far, honestly. So
they've more or less just been like
workable,
pared down X-Men outfits. Like
pretty much.
They're not full blown costumes. They're leather plants and the Matrix jacket. And
I don't really need her in a full blown costume. I kind of like that for her, but just give me a little bit more color. Give me a little bit more Scarlet. That's all I need.
Well, they gave you that red jacket.
A little more.
All right, that is the end of our review episode for the WandaVision series, only on Disney Plus. If you have enjoyed what you heard, and we hope you did, please, make sure you're subscribed to us. We are on generally every single podcast platform you could think of. We are For All Nerds. You can also support us in other ways by sharing our podcast, tweeting about us, doing IG posts about us, adding us, all of that stuff, letting us know how you feel, leaving comments and ratings. You can also support us on our Patreon page, patreon.com/forallnerds. And I'm sure we're going to come up with some really fire merch ideas. Once we get a name. For those who follow our other review episodes, we've come up with some really cool designs, or with the help of a lot of amazing artists, we've come up with some cool designs. So definitely check out our TeePublic page. That's tpublic.com/stores/forallnerds. And as we said, I'm Tatiana King, and this is
DJ Ben Amin.
And we out?
We out?
We out.
Yeah, we out. We'll be back. You're hearing this probably on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever you hear this, but we will be back every Monday.
Yes.
With a new review episode. So make sure you tune in. Make sure you follow, subscribe. Also, make sure you check us out on twitch.tv/forallnerds, where you can see both of our beautiful faces delivering these episodes every Monday at, I think we might move that up on Monday to 2 p.m. We'll figure it out. Every Monday, 2
every
p.m.
Monday,
Eastern, 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you're following us, twitch.tv/forallnerds. You'll get to see us do these shows, me do some DJing, Tatiana playing some video games, talking art-ish, all that great stuff. So yeah, join us.
Peace.
Deuces.